Hey guys, welcome back to the Spruce and Linen channel. I'm Janelle and today I'm going to show you how to make these really beautiful yarn flowers. So let's get started. This video is brought to you by the Spruce and Linen shop where you can find weaving looms, kits, tools, and supplies. Link in the description box below. You guys, I'm so excited to bring you this tutorial today, but before we begin, can I just ask you to please like, comment, and share this video if you enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you ever share your work on Instagram using our tutorials, we would love to see it. So you can tag me at Spruce and Linen, as well as use hashtag SL Weaving Club. All right, let's get into this tutorial. So I've already made a few of these flowers here, you can see, and I absolutely love these. I think they're such a fun way to add sort of that bouquet look to your weaving in a different way than from roving. So before we get started, let's just talk a little bit about how these are made. So these are made using these cute little flower looms that I've created, and you can purchase a really low priced PDF version of these over on spruceandlinen.com. You can find free ones online as well, but if you want to use the exact same ones that I have created that file for you so that you can cut them out and trace them onto cardboard to make your own. The other thing that you can use for these flowers, I'll just reach in and grab this here, are a round knitting loom. So if you have one of these kicking around, you can also use this, but basically we just need something that is circular and that you can kind of wrap yarn around. So we'll get into the technical side of that. Depending on what size of flowers you decide to make will kind of dictate what kind of yarn you use to do them. So when you're making one that's a little bit larger, which is from this size of loom, you're going to want something that is thicker and kind of holds its shape on its own a little better. If you use something really thin or really floppy, for lack of a better word, it's not gonna hold the flower shape as well, and they're just gonna kind of want to like flop all over the place. So that's my only recommendation, is that like if you're working on a bigger one, make sure you're using a nice chunky yarn. And then with the smaller ones, you can really play around with different yarns. I'm gonna be using all this single ply pencil roving yarn today, but you can definitely use whatever yarn you have on hand, play around with the different sizes. You can use different strands together to create even more depth on these, but I'm just going to show you like the most simple way so you can really get a hang of how these are put together, and they're so easy. So for this video, we are going to use the biggest flower loom that I have here, and that's just so that you can really see what I'm doing, because these are like, they're easier than easy. And I just think it's so fun that you could go ahead and like create a bunch of these before you even get started weaving, and then just incorporate them as you're weaving. So today I'm going to make a pink with a white middle flower for you here. And the nice part is too that you can really just leave the yarn on the ball as you create these. So the other thing I want to mention, depending on the size of your loom, depending on the size of your yarn, you might want to have more wraps around each of the notches. For this one, and using a super bulky yarn like this, I'm going to be wrapping around each one 3 times, which you'll see in more detail. Okay, so to start, we have your yarn in the middle. You can kind of hang on to it with your other hand while you get this started. And then we're going to just start wrapping around the notches. So we're going to wrap around this first notch, and then we're going to go down to the one that's straight down from that. And you don't want to wrap tight, especially if you're using cardboard. I definitely recommend like a nice thick cardboard, but you don't want to wrap tight because it's going to be really hard to get the flower off of this at the end. And if you're using cardboard, it might start to crumple the loom a little bit. So just gently wrap around, and you're just going to keep going. So you go from the one straight down from that one, and then the next one over, and the next one over, and the next one over. And you just do that all the way around. It's so easy, you guys. I think this is just such a fun craft. And I mean, you could use it for more than just weaving too. So now we're going to start our second wrap. So you're just continually going around the loom. I can kind of let go of that tail now that we have enough wraps on that it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so I think I've just completed my second row. So I'm just going to double check that every notch has 3 around it, and it does. So now we can keep going, and we're going to do, so like I said, we're going to do 3 total wraps. And just try not to lose track of where you are like I am. All right, so if I did this correctly, I now have 3 around every one of the notches. So let's look at the back. And yes, I have 3 wraps around each one. So now what we're going to do is leave a bit of a tail and just snip off the yarn. And then you can take a yarn needle of some sort. You could probably even use like a crochet hook, but we're gonna need a yarn needle right away anyway, so I definitely recommend that. And then we're gonna look at the back here, seeing where this tail is. We want this last tail to come out the opposite side. So I'm just gonna kind of fish this through the center of the flower, like so. And then we're gonna come to the back here, and we're just going to tie the yarn into a knot. You don't have to pull tight, just a loose, like tie the knot tight, but don't pull it. Don't pull it too tight. Okay, so now that we have that knot there, we can trim off the excess, leave a little bit so that it doesn't just come undone altogether. And now we can start working on the center. So for the center, we are going to need to cut a piece of yarn off. I'm taking a nice long piece. I'm not entirely sure how much I need. I just want to make sure I don't have too little. And then you can thread your needle. And now what we're going to be doing is creating the center like these ones already have. And basically what we're going to be doing is we want to be wrapping around in between each of these notches like this. So we need to figure out where the yarn is. So we're going to come up through the bottom between these 2 notches, making sure each yarn section is on the right side of it. Pull that through. Now here's where you definitely want to leave a tail. And then we're going to come down to the opposite end, so straight down. We're separating these yarns again, as you can see. So the ones that are wrapped around here are onto this side, and the ones that are wrapped around there are on that side. So then fish your needle, and I keep losing my place, fish your needle back down through there. And this is the part where we are going to pull a little bit tighter. So now we're coming to the back again, tying a knot. Now don't go reaming on this, but you want to pull decently tight. That looks good like that, and just tie a knot. And now what we can do is continue on creating the center. So now I'm going to come up through between these 2 notches. And then once again, going the opposite side of that one and going back down through there. And again, for the center, we're gonna let that pull in a decent amount so that we actually have a center there. Now, what I found works best is for you to be wrapping around this way on the front as well as on the back. So instead of on the back just sliding over to here, I am gonna also go to the other end. I just found that the center works out better that way. So I'm gonna come up through these 2 now. And then we can go back down in between these 2 notches, and you can just continue that all the way around. All right, so I am all the way around now, but I'm gonna do one more because we want our tails to end up on the opposite sides of each other. So I want to end up over here. I'm going to come back through these two. I think that's the very first one we started with. So back through these two, and then straight down from there. And now we can tie off this flower. So we're just going to do another knot. Lots of knotting in this one, and it just keeps everything together really nicely. You can kind of look at the front, make sure you're not pulling too tight. Get your knot in there, and then you're going to leave a tail here. So I'm gonna just kind of cut it off a similar length as the other one. Cut that off, and now we can start slipping this off of the loom. So you just want to gently start pulling those yarns off of the little notches. And now we have a flower. So you can also kind of just start pulling those loops a little bit apart so that they don't sit so flush to each other, and then it'll look a little bit more natural like the one over here. And so I'm just going to kind of shift these loops all around. You can even kind of shake it out a little bit. Oh, there we go. The shaking definitely helps. Just kind of loosen everything up so it's not like looking so perfect anymore. And that is how you make one of these flowers. It's so easy. I was so excited when I discovered this type of like flower loom making situation, because I think this is just such a fun way to add some floral elements to your piece. And now I'm going to kind of just put all this stuff away and show you how you can put it onto your weaving. So this flower came off of this size of loom, and then this one came off of this size of loom. Now, again, something to note. So for this teeny tiny loom, I only went twice around each notch, and I did that on this one as well. I think this one could have had 3, but it depends what you're going for. So really just play around with how you make them to see what you like. All right, so here on this fairly large loom, I'll just kind of slide it down. I just have some short fringe. This is all made with the recycled cotton rope you can find in the shop. I will just kind of describe what I've done here. So this is a combination, the fringe is a combination of 7mm and 3mm rope, and then the whole weft is 5mm. And I should be calling it string, not rope, because it is single ply. And then we have our linen warp here. This you can find in the shop as well. All of these things you can find in the shop. And I've really just started out with a blank canvas because I wanted to show you what you could do. Definitely stay tuned over on Instagram for when I actually finish this piece, but for now I'm just going to be showing you what you could do. So now if you're starting with a blank canvas, you don't have to, you can make it as busy as you want it to be, but you can kind of start laying this out and figuring out what you would want for a layout for these flowers. And you can kind of mix them around, and you could have the whole thing covered. You can have kind of a little bit of more of a bouquet style in the center. Like, I think that looks really beautiful. And these are super easy to attach to your weaving. And just one more playing with the layout is that you could also kind of do them just in the corner, so that you have more of like a bit of a frame, and then maybe you want to stitch something over here. The possibilities are endless, and I just think this is so fun. So let's just take the flower we just made, and I'm going to show you how to attach it to your weaving. It's easy beyond easy. So you're just going to take your yarn needle again and thread it up, and then you're just going to kind of pick, let's say I want it like right in the middle sort of, so then I'm just going to decide where I want it. I'm sticking it between warp strings, and this, by the way, is all plain weave. It's just woven over to under to plain weave because the rope is so thick. And then you can just pull that needle. I should probably show you that. You can pull this all the way through. Excuse my cereal box cardboard. And then we're going to flip this back over. And now you can take your other tail and you can just skip some warp strings. So here you can see there I'm around those 2 warp strings. I'm gonna skip to the next section of 2 and go in between those 2. So the wider, like, you kind of want them to have a wide base because then it'll stay on your weaving more securely and it won't be like kind of flopping around. So just do the exact same thing. I'm just gonna pull that string all the way through. So now our flower is there. Flip your loom over. Normally I would do this with the loom standing up so I'm not constantly like crushing the flower, but for the purpose of the video, I'm just gonna do it this way. So now all you would need to do is tie this in a knot. I'm just gonna do a half knot because I'm not going to keep this flower here. And then literally you can just, after you've tied it in a full knot, when you're confident you have it where you want it, then you can just thread those tails back down through your weft like so, and then you would just trim off the excess just like you would tucking in any other ends. And then your flower is nice and secure on your weaving. So again, this one is so versatile. I'm so excited to see what you guys do with this because I'm always really excited about your different color combinations that you come up with, the different materials you're using, the whole design layout. So definitely tag me on Instagram when you use this tutorial. All right, you guys, so that is how you can make your very own yarn flowers. Don't forget that at spruceandlinen.com, you'll be able to grab the template for these little looms. I'll also include an SVG file so that you can cut those with your Cricut machine or laser if you have one, but you can also just use the PDF to trace these out on cardboard and cut them by hand as well. If you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications when I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.